we've done a lot of consumer research to try and figure out what our members do want. So we've looked at working with third parties on the customer segmentation side. We're doing some journey work, both at sort of the macro level, like taking into account all the potential touch points from even before you come into the club to the onboarding process, through the fitness experience, and then even after that. And then we also are looking at sort of personas and trying to figure out, okay, how do we appropriately bucket people? And then once we do that, maybe we can get into some more personalization and get down to that individual level. So it's all a process, and it really comes down to market research.
Welcome to episode 196 of the industry's leading business podcast for fitness owners and managers. Each week, we invite business experts, coaches, authors, and owners from around the world to share their expert advice with you, the FBP family. This month's interviews are brought to you by our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training, the world-class leaders in small group training. You can earn unprecedented profit, gain guaranteed results for your members, and ensure the very best small group training for your coaches. To find out how you too can run a popular and profitable small group training department, go to tribeteamtraining.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Welcome everyone. The Fitness Business Podcast, along with our foundation partner, Active Management, were media partners of the 2018 Motionsoft Technology Summit. We heard the latest tech-based news from a broad range of companies and speakers from within and also outside the industry. Following the event, I had the opportunity to speak with a number of the panelists, and one of them is today's special guest. Brian Zehetner is the Director of Health and Fitness for Planet Fitness. He's an accomplished registered dietitian and strength and conditioning coach with over 20 years of experience in the health and fitness industry. During the summit, Brian formed part of a Technology Summit Roundtable, discussing topics including technology demands from consumers and the move that Planet Fitness has made to a singular tech platform. So I asked Brian to share his insights around those and more topics here today. Specifically, we discuss using consumer and market research to influence your business direction and decisions. We chat about how Planet Fitness are moving to the singular platform for all of their tech and what the customer experience possibilities are for the future. We also chatted about how to keep up to date with data and tech trends in the industry. Before we dive into the main interview this week with Brian, I just want to give everyone a really quick reminder about the 2018 Club International Fitness Industry Trends Study. Now, you should be taking part in this study. The survey, which takes around 5 to 8 minutes to complete, is now in its 4th year. If you didn't hear us talk about it in a previous show, to give you a quick overview, it tracks adoption and growth levels for over 90 different trends in 4 categories: equipment, facilities, programming, and technology. Everyone that completes the survey is eligible to get a free copy of the report when it's completed in December, and I've added a direct link to the survey in today's show notes, so make sure you jump over and check that out. Also, make sure that you tune in after our main interview today, because I had a chance to catch up with the latest news from our podcast partner, One Fitstock, when I recently chatted to their CEO, Jared Azen. Now, speaking of podcast partners, here's a message from Tribe Team Training. Tribe Team Training is a proven turnkey standalone profit center for your fitness business. For unprecedented financial results, find out more and go to tribeteamtraining.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Enjoy my interview with Brian Zehetner. Brian, welcome along. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we are actually doing today's interview live, which is quite unusual for me. Most of the time I don't get to sit opposite my guest. We're normally looking through a computer screen. And for those of you that don't know, we're actually sitting currently at the Motionsoft Technology Summit 2018. Brian did not one, but 2 sessions this morning. It's been a very busy morning for you, and I've managed to grab you for a very quick interview. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat to all of us today.
Yeah, happy to do it.
So I wanted to obviously we're here talking about tech, so it makes sense that we continue on that type of topic. I'm interested to understand from your point of view, what technology demands that you are currently hearing from your customers?
Yeah, I think, traditionally, Planet, where I work now, we haven't necessarily had a strong technology imprint within the clubs. And so I think we're starting to figure out that members are looking for additional resources. They want additional solutions that can make like sort of the fitness experience easier, more intuitive, user-friendly. Like, how can you help me get to whatever goal I may have? Obviously, we have to identify that first. And so we're doing some work in that regard too. But I think, so we're sort of starting with, we're kind of undergoing a digital transformation. So we're starting with creating sort of this integrated layer via APIs so that we can connect all of our disparate systems together, right? All of our technology seems to be operating in these siloed groups. And so we want to kind of create that integration layer. Everybody integrates in with us, and then we can decide how the data flows and where it flows to and that sort of thing. So that's part of it. And then one of the things that I'm working on more specifically is sort of reimagining the mobile experience. And I think that's really important. And so when you think about consumers specifically and our members, they're really looking at mobile because it really is the engagement hub for them. So they want a pretty robust experience, and that could be related to, onboarding, checking into the club, obviously the fitness experience. Maybe it gets more broader than that. Down the road in terms of wellness and incorporating nutrition or mindfulness and community elements and things like that, all in due time. I mean, we can't do everything from the get-go, so we're going to start with sort of a V1 and then progress from there.
Now, you mentioned that that kind of full integration hub that you're building. I mean, that sounds like a project that's bigger than anything. I imagine that's a huge investment for the company.
That's correct.
For you to have gotten to that point where you've made that decision and you've gone, this is something that we need. How do you get to that point? How do you understand what it is that your customers want from a technology standpoint, and what's that tipping point that you go, right, rather than working in silos like we have traditionally, we actually need to make this investment and this commitment, I guess, to providing or creating this integrated platform that you talk about? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of that, Craig Miller, our Chief Digital and Information Officer, he sort of talks about this integrated data layer, the API layer, as sort of like digital plumbing, right? That's his term for it, right? So it's not anything that necessarily the members will see. They're going to see the mobile app. They're going to see some in-club displays or some media on the walls, like with advertising or with exercise programming and things like that. So they'll see those touch points. Which is great, but they're not going to see sort of this plumbing, right? They're just going to know that like everything works and it works seamlessly. I don't need 3 different logins to get into mobile, or I don't need 2 different logins to access the web experience and things like that. So we really just want to simplify things for them. And I mean, who doesn't want things simplified, right? At the end of the day, I mean, that's really critical. And I do think, we've done a lot of consumer research to try and figure out what our members do want. So we've looked at working with third parties on the customer segmentation side. We're doing some journey work, both at sort of the macro level, like taking into account all the potential touch points from even before you come into the club to the onboarding process, through the fitness experience, and then even after that. And then we also are looking at sort of personas and trying to figure out, okay, how do we appropriately bucket people? And then once we do that, maybe we can get into some more personalization and get down to that individual level. So it's all a process, and it really comes down to market research. And I think we've invested a lot there, and it's provided a lot of great insights, some that we were very aware of and maybe some that we weren't. So
I'm keen to understand the market research piece a little bit better, but before we do that, I want to kind of rewind just a little bit, because I've come in here assuming that most people will know Planet Fitness, but I think it's important that we give everyone a bit of an overview about the business. If someone has not stepped foot in a Planet Fitness venue before, tell us about what they would expect as they walk in the door.
I mean, that we sort of pride ourselves on the judgment-free zone, right? So you walk in, and what you see is a ton of really high quality equipment. You'll meet our very friendly and conversational staff members. You'll see that the place is meticulously clean, and you'll just find that it's a really non-intimidating place to work out. And you'll see people from all walks of life trying to take either that first step or maybe their 10,000 step in sort of the fitness arena, right? So we have a lot of different options available for folks. We have 2 different membership options. So we have sort of what we call our white card or our classic and our black card, which has some other amenities tied into it for either $10 or $22 or $21.99. But we're completely different because we literally, and I mentioned this earlier as part of the conference, we pull people off the couch. Like everybody says that they do that, but we actually do that. A good portion of our members have never set foot in a health club ever in their lives. And so we're their first experience. And so we try to break down those barriers. We created a judgment-free zone, no gym intimidation, and we just try to get people really engaged. And now we're going down this road of trying to figure out how to provide even more resources and tools so that people can kind of engage in fitness how they want to. For the most part, our fitness experience right now is tied to a trainer and small group training. Despite the fact we only have 1 trainer in the clubs for the thousands of members that we have in each club. Moving forward, we kind of want to get into more of the DIY. Like, I want to do it myself. Like, how do I do that? What can you provide to me so that I can understand if I'm sort of a novice, and that sort of thing.
Now, I know a lot of people will have just heard what you said and kind of gone, what? 1 trainer in the whole club. Tell us about that model. How does that actually work?
Yeah, so we have small group training, which is great, but we still find that a lot of members just want to come in and get on the treadmill and hit quick start or go, right? So they do that. But we do have our passionate group-based fans. So they come in and they work with a trainer and they can do functional training or they can do some muscle group specific stuff and things like that. We also have a 30-minute circuit that really is tailored to the beginner. So it's 10 steps, it's 10 selectorized machines. And so it's got a cardio component, it's got a strength component. You just oscillate back and forth. And it's great. And a lot of people go there. We kind of call that sort of our safe haven for those folks because it's off the floor, it's off the main floor. And so they can kind of be by themselves and engage in fitness that way. But yeah, so I think we also offer a lot of different types of equipment. Yep. Generally only from one particular vendor in each club though, which is great. So everything's kind of streamlined. It all sort of makes sense. You don't have multiple different experiences on the consoles and things like that. Everything, you can kind of understand how it might operate like that. And it works really well for our members, I think. So
that's absolutely fascinating. I find it amazing, when you are talking about having a lot of members in the one space that you've got, just that one trainer working with them. And obviously, you found a way to make it work because you have referenced several times the fact that the gym environment is that, I love the word gym intimidation.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that before. There's no gym intimidation. And you kind of called it a safe space and everything else like that. So you've obviously been able to create that, but just with the single staff member.
Yeah, but so that programming though, to your point, is not particularly scalable, right? So when I think about scaling the fitness experience within Planet Fitness, we really do look to technology. And I think I'm always careful about this, Craig is as well. It's not technology for technology's sake, it's technology for scalability's sake, right? So how can we offer that same group-based experience, maybe on a monitor in the functional training area, that one individual can walk up and take advantage of, and they feel like they got the same experience that they might have had with the trainer. Now, obviously, I think there's always added benefits of working with a really engaging trainer, someone that's really passionate about working with members and stuff. But if you're intimidated about doing that because you're going to be working out with 5 strangers and then a trainer that you also don't know, why not give them an alternative? And that's what we're trying to do.
Amazing.
And you can do that through mobile too, right? So there's a lot of different channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to circle back to the market research piece that we were touching on earlier, because I was asking you about, obviously creating that platform that you were speaking about, and you had talked about the fact that a lot of research had gone into getting you to that point. For anyone that is interested in kind of diving into those analytics for their own customers and in their own business, how did you get to that stage? Did you work with third-party businesses to do that research? Did you do it from internally from head office? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so we have a couple new executive team members. One is Roger Chaco, who is now our chief commercial officer. And so he kind of covers strategy and marketing and sales functions, corporate partnerships and those sorts of things. And then we have Craig Miller, who's our chief digital and information officer. So he kind of covers technology and really all things digital. And so the two of them have both gone through this customer segmentation and journey work and stuff with other brands that they've worked with in other industries. And so they were really well versed when it comes to the key players in the space. So yes, we did work with third parties that they had recommended, that they had confidence in, that had done really good work for them. Craig had been in the financial industry before. He had been sort of on the retail side in food and beverage. And then Roger comes to us from, he was in, I think, hospitality and a number of other areas. So they just have really, really diverse backgrounds and had done this work before. I think it would have been a much tougher road to hoe if we didn't have them come in and say, hey, here are the key players. Let's do a sort of an RFP process and select the best ones, and then we can move forward from there.
Yeah. I think we've been talking a lot today in the Motionsoft Technology Summit about data and having, comprehensive data that is usable,
right.
And not so much that it's overwhelming and not usable. Just to give us a little bit of an understanding, when you were talking about your customer profiles and you were saying you have a really in-depth understanding so that we know just how in-depth that is, if you pulled up like the average member of a Planet Fitness, what sort of information do you know about that person? Like, how intimately can you describe that person?
I think a lot of that research is still a level up from that. I mean, it's still, the segmentation is all about trying to identify these large groups of consumers. So we have this millennial crowd, but within that group, what are some of those individuals looking for, maybe from a technology perspective, experiential, how do they expect to be onboarded, that type of thing. So it's still a level up from that. I think we want to get into sort of the, the individualization and the personalization. That's ultimately the goal, and I think everybody wants to do that. But it's still just sort of saying, hey, here are these logical groups. These groups are trying to accomplish different things, and I think through predominantly really robust survey data, we can kind of identify what those things are. And then we can attribute different journeys to that using all the different channels. So whether it's web or, mobile, what kind of marketing messaging is appropriate even outside the club. And then once they come into the club, what is the experience that they're looking for? Are they someone that does really want to just focus on cardio? Do they want to do something related to strength? Are they more about sort of mind-body? Do they want to take advantage of the Black Card amenities? Or do we have people that just want to come in and use the massage beds? Or I think you can sort of try and determine that at a sort of a high level. And then once you do that, there are other third-party companies that you can bring in that will look at a lot of other data sources like Facebook and social media and all those. And then you can pair all that information together and then start saying, okay, now what does this particular individual want? And I also think you can take advantage of things like quick polls. So if you have somebody that doesn't work out in mobile, for example, you can ask them very simply at the end of the workout, was this appropriate for you? Like, did you feel like it was, did you have a good experience? And that those sorts of things. You can do these little quick polls, and it can really kind of help you determine what that individual should do next. So if they liked it, they thought it was great, well, let's serve them up something similar but slightly different, so that they get the same kind of experience and they have the same kind of reaction.
Brian, I'm keen for you to, I guess, look into the future a little bit, to the time that the platform is fully integrated, to the time that the mobile solution is available. If you were to put yourself in the shoes of one of your members, what does that experience look like at that time? What is that seamless experience look and feel like for a Planet Fitness member of the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of different journeys that someone could go through. I think the way I look at it as sort of the health and wellness guy, right? So I think, okay, we have today our fitness experience revolves around trainer facilitated or trainer led small group training. That's our fitness experience. And so if you don't want to do that, then you're kind of on your own, right? So moving forward, though, we want to take all these sort of disparate elements. So we want to take mobile, we want to take in-club digital displays, we want to take connected equipment, whatever that means. You can look at the cardio equipment. There's even connected strength solutions out there. We just heard from eGym and some others, and obviously Matrix has something out in the market, Techno Gym, others. And then you can also look at what people are doing outside the four walls. So do I want to track my nutrition? Do I want to do something in mindfulness? Do I want to communicate with like-minded people, even outside of the club, but through the club platforms that are offered? So I think what we want to do is ultimately kind of mash all that together. And then I sort of use this term a lot, kind of the choose your own adventure, right? So what path do you want to go down? I think ultimately mobile is kind of central to a lot of those different experiences because it really is the engagement hub at the end of the day. And it's something that you'll have at home and in the club. So yeah, I like sort of the choose your own adventure model. And, but just to have more than one or two options, we'll have several options and then let you kind of figure out what works best.
I love that description, the choose your own adventure model. And one of the things that you touched on there was the mindfulness piece. And we were having a chat earlier because I know that you mentioned that your head office is in a partnership with Headspace. And on the show, we in the past have talked about the benefits of mindfulness in like your day-to-day practice. So many of the leaders that come and speak on the show talk about the fact that that is something that is instrumental to their success. So I'm interested in understanding, what was it that motivated the team from Planet to introduce or to go into partnership with Headspace, and what does it mean for the business? What does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can speak all that well about it because I'm not because it's really a marketing partnership and they kind of handled it. I can only imagine that. I think we all know that Headspace is probably like the number one, meditation app out there. And so they're kind of the leader when it comes to mindfulness. They have a great app. It's fairly intuitive to use. If you have a minute or two or 10 minutes, you can engage with it. So that's great. And so I'm not entirely sure how that came to fruition, but I do think we want to kind of look at wellness more broadly, but I would also say this, we're not entirely sure. So I think the logical next step could be, do we want to integrate that into our mobile experience that we're creating? The caveat to that is we don't necessarily know that our members want that yet, right? So that's why this partnership it's kind of early on. It's at sort of the corporate level at this point. We haven't really pushed it out to members in any significant way because we want to find out if our members are yearning for that first, right? And if they are, then it's probably an easy decision to make. But we don't know that yet. So we want to make some database decisions. It's not like Brian's way. It's not Craig's way. It's not PF Corporate's way. It's, okay, let's find out what our members want through this consumer and market research and then make the right decisions based on that. So, and a lot of times, a lot of the research is just validating. Like we were already thinking that way, and now we just validated that we were correct. Well, great. Or it could be, we were thinking that and we were proven completely wrong. And that's great learning too. So I think we'll figure it out moving forward.
I love that you've brought it back to that, just coming back to the customer. What is it the customer wants? And I think this is a good opportunity to remind you all that it doesn't matter what size your business is. Regardless of what size it is, you can always do some type of customer feedback. You can always talk to your customers and find out what it is that they want before you launch the new product, before you invest in that new retail department or whatever it is. It doesn't matter if you're a standalone personal trainer or if you're a multi-business franchise owner or a big box gym owner. It is just absolutely, it's such an important piece.
Well, I would also say too, to take advantage of your staff or go into the clubs yourself, right? So sometimes we're really disconnected at PFHQ. So it's like, we could go into the clubs and we do have our staff members just go around and talk to people and find out.
Simple, right?
Yeah, right. Like I think we've spent a good portion of the time here talking about customer segmentation and journey work and media, working with these third parties and presumably, probably paying an inordinate amount of money for all that research. But at the end of the day, you can also just go talk to your members and you can talk to them one-on-one. Like you could do like a focus group and things like that. And those are great too, but that still takes planning and organizing and all that kind of stuff. You can just go talk to people or just even better, or even taking a step back from that, just watching people interact. Like, they got on the piece of cardio equipment. I remember I heard an example the other day. Somebody got on one of the ellipticals at one of the Planets and started doing the elliptical and did like a 20-minute workout and never hit start. Like never actually turned the machine on. And it's because you don't have to, right? You can just get on and start doing it.
You can do it, yeah.
You don't have to, Yeah. So they never actually turned the console on at all. And it's like, that's really interesting, And that's not, like, I've heard that happen in other clubs as well. And it's like, well, yeah, you can't necessarily do that with the treadmill, but you can certainly do it with the elliptical.
Absolutely.
And it's like, or the bike or whatever, right? So it's like, okay. So
it's funny because it really is just getting back to basics. And I always think that quite often some of the best people that you can ask, and you just mentioned staff then, it's like your welcome desk person probably sees more stuff going on in the fitness facility, or the trainer that you've got in the middle of the floor probably sees more stuff than, HQ ever would. So,
right.
So Brian, I wanted to finish off today because I think it's important that we always stay up to date with what's happening from a tech perspective. And one of the things that you touched on earlier, which I love, is that you had gathered information, you had looked outside the industry for information to kind of feed the actions that you're doing in the business. So can you leave us today with 3 ways that you would suggest that we can keep up to date with data and technology trends from the kind of the broader world, essentially?
Yeah. I think what I use, I use LinkedIn a lot. So I have lots of connections. Many of them are in the fitness and nutrition industries and things like that. And a lot of them are actually in digital health too, because I worked in digital health for a couple of years. And so it's great. Like people are always posting really interesting information. They're posting podcasts or links to this or the Fitness Technology Council. Like there's all kinds of things on there. So LinkedIn is great. Moby Health News is fantastic. Just kind of as a nice summary of like the day's activities or...
Is that MOBI?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
Yeah, related to technology. And there's a lot related to digital health and oftentimes fitness. They'll post about, there'll be stuff about Planet or SoulCycle or Peloton and what they're doing or the new Gold Zamp app or whatever it is. So that's fantastic. And then, let's see, I had a last one.
Is it outside the industry? Conferences?
Conferences,
we talked
yes.
about conferences.
Conferences are critical. Oh, and just Google Alerts, right?
Oh, so, Google Alerts is a great one.
Google Alerts is fantastic. Like, just type in what you want to know about, and all of a sudden you just get this like stream of information. Like, obviously you can get inundated at some point. Yeah. But yeah, then definitely just get involved. Like, go to IRSA, go to IDEA, come to Motionsoft, come to the conferences, meet with the folks. The thing I like about Motionsoft is that all of our quote unquote competitors are here, and we're all talking openly kind of about, sort of what we're doing, and like all the secrets are kind of left behind, right? So it's like, you sort of open the kimono a little bit, and just kind of, talk about it and find out best practices and things like that. So there's no better forum for
it's for the greater good of the industry at the end of the day. And I just want to touch on really quickly, because I know that there are half of you that are going to automatically know what Google Alerts are all about. But just in case there is anyone out there that hasn't set up a Google Alert before, or if you're kind of going, what is that? I just want to tell you really quickly, because it's one of the best and quickest things that you can possibly do. And you are literally just going into, I think you type in Google Alerts to bring it up. And you are going to put in there, I do a few things. I put the business name. I put my competitor's name. So I set up an alert for our business name. I set up an alert for our competitor's name. And then any topics that I'm interested in. And it doesn't ping you all the time. You don't get bombarded with spam, but it means that when there is something relevant to you, then you're going to get a push notification, and then you can read that article. So it's a really nice way to receive information.
Yeah.
Great. Brian, thank you so much. I think you can relax now. You've done all of your speaking gigs and your interviews for today. So thank you so much for coming on and chatting to the FBP family. We really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing that information with us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'd love to do it again.
Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by Precor, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precor.com/fitness business podcast.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
Jaron Azen is the CEO of One Fit Stop, and I recently chatted to him about the latest news from our podcast partner. Jaron, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Chantel. Thanks for having me again.
It's been a little while since we last caught up. Give us a bit of an update. What have you been up to the last few months?
Besides a lot of travel internationally, which is keeping me busy, we've been very hands-on with a large number of boutique businesses and big box businesses now at One Fit Stop, which is very exciting to head more into the multi-location domain and support larger infrastructures and organizations in the fitness sector.
I feel like every time we catch up, because we of course caught up just a couple of months ago at the Idea World Convention, I feel like business is just constantly expanding and you're moving into new areas and obviously working with more and more businesses. So how about you give us a bit of an update of what's been happening from a systems point of view for One Fit Stop?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing and our biggest asset as a company is making sure that we constantly listen and learn from the best operators on the ground in the fitness industry and understand how they complete their most common tasks on a day-to-day, where any pain points exist in other solutions that exist in the marketplace so that we can adapt it in a purpose-built solution for fitness businesses and continue to improve how operations are run on the ground across the world.
You know, Jaron, I know that when we've caught up in the past, we have spoken about One Fit Stop before and we've given everyone a bit of an overview, but I'm hoping today what we might actually do is take an even deeper dive into the system, and maybe you can give us a bit of an update on anything new that's been happening or any of the updates or upgrades that you've been making.
Definitely. And I think a good way or area to dive into would be in the reporting sector of what we believe needs to be twofold. One is display the most appropriate data, and two, help businesses take actionable steps after seeing the data so that things can be actioned, resolved, changed if need be, and that the businesses can stay informed about the performance across the organization. So I think working with some larger businesses across the globe now, we've been able to really understand the numbers that they're looking for. And I can dive a little bit deeper there, and if you like.
Yes, please give us some more detail.
For sure. So I think one of the biggest things is definitely knowing very baseline numbers. If you're running memberships at the organization, you need to know at any point in time who's active, who's suspended or on hold, who's been canceled, who may be a duplicate in the system, and why. And having that information at your fingertips will then allow you to make and take actionable steps after. And if you're an organization that's running off pack-based solutions, well, then you need to know who's coming up, who's expiring, or who's got unused credits, and who has credits that are very much about to be used up, but hasn't yet purchased another pack in their membership file. And I think then taking actionable steps after that is really critical. And we display a lot of snapshot reports. So yes, you can get your line-by-line data, but then we have your snapshot reports that display front and home on the dashboard and actionable items that are suggested to businesses to actually action these critical reports that alert these organizations and business owners to take action so that they can continue the flow of revenue, that there's no disruption to cash flow in the organization.
So what I'm understanding, Jaron, is I could be working within the One Fit Stop system in my facility, and these alerts are very transparent to me so that they come up whilst I'm actually working within the system, and I don't need to come out of the system to take actions. Like what are a couple of the items that I could action from within the system? Is it things like sending emails to customers?
Yeah, so there's a number of layers there. The first is if you can avoid having to do any administration work yourself, then that's a big tick. And some businesses love to automate, whether it's that failed payment notification directing them into the mobile app to retry and fix a failed payment on account. Or if you're running a failed payment report, for example, for delinquent invoices on the platform, the business owners, instead of just running that report, they can actually change the payment method on file. They can see the reason there. They see the phone number. They can retry the payment or even just send another triggered alert without having to go into your email client and write something manually. And so it's about taking those actionable steps after you've seen what is a report that is normally static data that will help make things more efficient to action that data.
That's a massive advantage. Jaron, thank you for going into that level of detail with us today. I thought it was important that we cover that off so that everyone can really understand just how beneficial this system is. And I really want to put the word out to everyone because you've probably been hearing the One Fit Stop name on the show for the last couple of years, and maybe it's kind of spiked your interest or you've heard people talk about the system. So for anyone that wants to find out more information, Jaron, what's the best place for them to visit?
The best place to go to is our website, onefitstop.com. That's onefitstop.com. and send through a request to meet with one of our customer support specialists who will take you through, understand your business model, and showcase how the platform will adapt to everything that you operate with. We offer a free transition and conversion of all the data from your existing solutions, and we want to make sure that you're 100% confident in the operations of One Fit Stop for your business before we make any switch or any conversion. And we do that by setting up sandbox accounts sometimes and actually taking you through simulations of how your business would work.
That's phenomenal. Well, Jaron, I want to thank you so much. It was great catching up with you. I am thrilled to hear that everything's going so well. I know that you've been traveling the world and going to be returning home soon. So thanks for taking the time to catch up with us and to share the latest news with all of the FBP family.
Thanks, Chantel. We'll speak to you soon.
Precore Quickfire 5.
This week's Precore Quickfire 5 guest is Mike Jezaszek, CPA. He's the founder of Jetro and Associates, and he's this week's guest for the Precore Quickfire 5. Hey, Mike, welcome along. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Of course. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's start things off with our Precore Quickfire 5. Tell us, why do you do what you do?
So before starting our firm, I saw so many businesses struggling on the financial and tax side. And so by seeing that, that's when I knew that I wanted to take the knowledge that I've gained and retained throughout my years in public accounting and use that to help fitness studio owners out in just an area that they often are not experienced in.
And what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
I always try to put myself in the seat of a client. So before I meet with clients, I think about what state they are in and what they're dealing with. And by doing that, it really kind of helps me understand where they're at and put myself in their mind so that I can be able to help them the best.
Great answer. And what's one app or system that you use to stay in control of your workload?
For internal management here, we use a software called Teamwork. For accounting, bookkeeping type things, we use a software called Xero or QuickBooks Online.
Great. And what's one book, a podcast, or a blog that you'd recommend and why?
I would say, as far as podcasts, How I Built This with Guy Raz, and it's simply very motivational and neat to see at the struggles that even super successful people have faced in their lives.
That is such a popular answer to that question. That podcast must be having huge ratings of that show. I must jump on and check it out. And
yeah, it's pretty good.
Awesome. And give everyone a little bit of an overview about the main topic that we're going to be talking about in our interview next week.
Yeah, so we're going to be focusing mainly on accounting, bookkeeping, and tax tips for fitness businesses.
Well, I think this is going to be a very popular topic. So, Mike, thank you for joining us today for the Precore Quickfire 5.
Thank you.
Before we finish off today, a reminder that all the resources, the links, and a transcript for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you to our founding partner, Active Management. I need more leads, is what many fitness business owners say. Let Active Management help turn your About Us page on your website into a lead-generating machine. Download your free checklist at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active. Thank you all for joining me for another week of the show. I look forward to seeing you next week. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.